Hello folks and welcome back to Medieval Total War. I am Conostep and this is going to be part 9 of my early campaign where I'm playing as Egypt. And in the last episode I did finally attack something. I took Syria. Without a fight because the Turks simply abandoned it so that they could attack Antioch. And then they just kicked my ass. Yeah, they beat me in Antioch. Although you know, it's one of those battles that when I was editing that video, I kind of looked back on it and I was like, I could have played that a bit differently. Yeah, I failed that battle, not just because of my poor reactions, because I was rusty. I could have deployed better. I should have appreciated the fact that the Turkish army is a very different army, right? It is very cav heavy. And I should have deployed to mirror that, essentially. I should have put my spears, I think, in the wood line that was on the right side of the hill. That could have protected me from any flanks, and they would have obviously fought a lot better in the woods against cavalry. And then, essentially, I should have had a front line of the camels. They should have been right on that crest of that hill. I find that the AI tends to understand very well what its units' counters are, and it will try to sort of stay away from its counters, right? So, like, cavalry won't really be too crazy about charging into cavalry, or cavalry doesn't really like to go into spears, of course, as well. Like, it really understands its counters, and it tries to stay away from them, and it tries to find, you know, good engagements. So I think that by putting the camels on that hill, it would have put the enemy cavalry in kind of in a tricky position where they wouldn't have really known where to go. And I could have kept the grenades just right in front of them where they were, where I actually had them. And then the left flank should have just been archers and Saharan cav, you know, just to kind of like beat back the light cav that the Turks had. I feel like that would have worked a little bit better, but who knows? That's all in imagination land. In real life, I got my ass kicked by a bunch of ones and zeros. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty, but hopefully I learned my lesson. Yeah, I don't know. But I did take back Antioch without a fight. I simply just moved back on in, and the Turks moved out to Edessa. Now, Edessa is cut off from their own territories here in Armenia and Georgia, so the Turks are in a precarious position, and we are two turns away from having a French crusade ready to attack Antioch. And this is something that I haven't experienced before. I have not experienced a crusade moving through territory that did not allow it in. The Byzantines have declared war against the French. And this is going to be very interesting for me because typically, like when I played my Byzantine campaign and when the Crusades would try to, you know, march on my territory, I had so many forces built up on my borders that the Crusades would stall out and they wouldn't move any further. But the factions' territories that they were hanging out in were friendly territories. There were Catholic territories that had allowed them in. And so there wasn't really a conflict there, right? They just kind of, the Crusades hung out until they withered away. And I'm really curious what would happen here. You know, I'm really curious, you know, if the Crusade is beaten in the first battle, I would presume that it goes back to Leicester, Armenia. Would the Byzantines really try to attack the Crusade and try to get rid of it? Or would they just kind of live with it and say, well, it's here now, so, you know, that's what else can we do? And would Lesser Armenia essentially just belong to the French until this crusade goes away? I don't know, and so I'm really curious to find out, but first thing is first, I have to beat that crusade, and based on my performance in the last battle, well, we will see if I've learned my lesson. Now, are the Crusade armies in any way comparable to the Turkish armies? Well, in some ways, we are seeing a lot of cavalry, aren't we? We are seeing a lot of cavalry, including some horse archers, but also some heavy cav. Decent spears. The order foot soldiers are, you know, very, very good spears. And yeah, some foot archers. So there is more of a foot presence for sure. But is there any foot soldiers that can like kill spears? Are there any swords? Okay, so there is a 40-man unit of feudal men-at-arms. That is a sword unit that can cut through spears. So that's a little bit dangerous for sure. And the militia sergeants as well are a bit... They can be a bit dangerous as well, like cutting through my spears. And that's something that I don't really have a counter to quite yet. I don't really have something that is good at holding these types of units back. Other than, you know, holding them with my spears and then getting a quick, like flanking attack in with a unit of Gulam bodyguards. That's an option, but that's obviously easier said than done because they are going to have a lot of supporting spear elements themselves. A lot, actually, yeah. Feudal sergeants, basic spears, order foot soldiers, even some armored spears as well. So, yeah, they have a strong spear presence, and that's going to make it tricky to get that flank engagement with my Gulam bodyguards. That's going to be... Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Luckily, they didn't send any good generals with this Crusade, so they have a 0-star, and there's nothing else to them, so... At least we will have the command advantage. We do have our 6-star Amir al-Adil, and then our... Is this another 6-star? 6-star Amir al-Din. Used to be a Nur al-Din, but now he is a governor or an Amir. So, yes, 2 very good generals guarding my frontiers. So, we will see how this goes. I have an army down here in Tripoli. They can come up to Syria for this turn because... I think I'll move them over to Antioch next turn, but for now, let's see if the Turks counterattack from Edessa, or if they just want to stay and hang out there. We will see. But I think this is the end of this turn. I do have an army here that this is the army that I ransomed back, so I can send these units back to the front lines. I do want to retrain the damaged units, and I do have some damaged units up here in these armies as well that I want to retrain. And then I want to keep training as well in these provinces. Yeah, just keep pumping out the soldiers. Saharan Cav, I think, and then archers here. Boats, I don't know. Let's here. I think I have a unit of peasants that I want to retrain, actually. Yeah, let's just retrain you for a turn. And you're training peasants, and you actually just keep training the naphtha throwers. I feel like I want a lot more of those, actually. Something that I've never experimented with before is using 4 naphtha throwers in an army comp. I've always had like 1 or 2, and I'm starting to think, so like, in that last battle, I got a really good toss in at first with one of my naphtha throwers. I was like, so yeah, that's great, you know. But then they kind of brought in another unit from the side, kind of from an angle, really. And anytime you are trying to like ask an naphtha thrower to turn and face an enemy and then like get its grenade toss in, it's a slow turn, it's a slow face, it's a slow grenade toss. So when there's cavalry going at it, it's as you saw, you know, it's not going to get that grenade toss in many times. So I'm wondering if the answer to get naphtha throwers to work is just more of them, right? Like 4 units covering a front. That way the enemy can't get those like angled side, you know, they're not even like a flanking charge. It's just an angle that if you have 1 or 2 naphtha throwers, they can kind of come in from a position, from an angle that they can't fire on unless they turn. And yeah, with 4 of them, maybe that just wouldn't be an issue. So I would kind of like to give that a try. So I think I'm just going to keep pumping up the naphtha here in Arabia and then get my normal troops, spears, Saharan Cav, and desert archers from these 3 provinces, and then keep pumping up boats in Tripoli and Antioch. That's going to be the plan. And I did test this before I started recording. The Saharan Cav, they can beat the Turkoman horse in combat, but it's a slow, it's close. It's a close matchup, and that might even go in the Turkoman horses of favor on this difficulty level, but it's close. Like, it does favor the Saharan Cav. So yeah, that's something I should keep in mind going forward. And yeah, let's see, what do we got? We got the Citadel being built here in Egypt. We're working on horse breeder here in Tanai. I'm working on trying to eventually get those Mamluk horse archers going. Palestine, farm upgrades, and then the boat builder here in Tripoli, and the boat builder in Antioch, the keep here in Arabia and some more defensive upgrades for my forts here in Syria. I'm going to keep my emissary here in Rum for now, even though Rum does border Syria. I don't have any border forts here yet. That's going to be coming next. And then I noticed something pretty wild over here. Look at this. Provence is owned by the Byzantines. Like, what the hell happened? They have a boat over here, but they don't have a direct line of ships. I don't think so. I'm wondering if when the German states, the German provinces, have their civil war, which I think, they're still dealing with, I believe. Looks like the Byzantines might have just bought a province. And I can't spy there, so I don't know. But yeah, the Italians as well. The Italians are making some progress. They are all the way up to Switzerland. And I want to keep going and see if they have more stuff. And are they fighting the French by any chance? Are the Italians and the French fighting? No, that's like the one faction that they're not fighting. Okay. And just to keep in mind, oh, what? Oh, that's the Papal States. Okay, I got the colors confused sometimes. Sometimes the Papal States colors and the Egyptian colors look very similar. But oh man, I smoked a couple cigarettes last night, and I feel like my breathing's labored. It's just like, oh god, smoking and trying to like be like a commentary guy just does not work out. Like if you talk for a living, man, smoking is tough. Jesus. I just feel like I'm panting into the microphone. Oh dear. Anyway, let's just get through this. As I was saying though, the Crusade really does have an outcome, for me. It's not just about stopping the French. It's about hurting the French, because out here in the West, the French typically grew out a massive empire, and they usually do pretty well. And it turns into a situation where I could be racing the French in points later on in this campaign. And it can sometimes be kind of hard to influence this part of the map when I am so far away from them. So there's ways that I can try to impose my will on them and sort of get in their way a little bit without having to directly invade them. And that involves using a lot of agents. However, another way to really kind of slow them down is by making this crusade fail. That's going to make their king lose influence, and maybe that will cause their own civil war, maybe? And something that I can't remember, something that I should know by now, but a crusade, it doesn't succeed until the province is fully secured, right? And that includes the garrison inside of the castle needs to be eliminated, right? Or does the crusade succeed as soon as they take the province, even if there's still a garrison inside? It would make sense that there can't be a garrison inside for a crusade to succeed, but I for some reason I feel like I've seen a crusade succeed without having to take out the garrison. But I'm not confident in that memory, so I guess we'll see. Well, no, I don't want to see. I want to beat and win this. I want to beat this French crusade. So hopefully we don't see. But yeah, if we do see, hopefully it's the one way, not the other. Okay. Also, there's an Almohad emissary down here in Egypt. Hopefully he's just passing on through, and the Almohads aren't just spying on me, because that would be rude. The French crusade has inched one step closer. They have taken Lesser Armenia, and the Byzantines have of course retreated. This has been finished here in Syria, and then the horse breeders finished here in Sinai. And let's see, Abdul al-Azir, I don't think he's important. Not a big deal. Okay, so the French crusade is here. And are they losing troops? Are they? If they are, it's not enough to notice. Yeah, I don't think, there's a few Byzantine forces right there. The Byzantines have gathered. So, yeah, I wonder if would they attack the French if the French just camp out here in Lesser Armenia, which is what they will do, right? Like of course they will try to attack me now. The Turks did not counterattack into Syria. So I think this is going to be the turn where I leave one stack in Syria and just dare the Turks to come after me. Gosh, you know what, actually? You know what I probably should have done? I don't need to get an alliance with the Turks, but if I can get a ceasefire, since I don't... I think I will be tasked to take Odessa at some point, but that's not now. So I don't need this war with them. Yeah, I don't need a ceasefire, but I mean, I don't need an alliance, but I can just try to get a ceasefire. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just do that. Let's try to let them know that, I just need Assyria, that's it. And they can go back to sending their forces against the Byzantines or the French. Whatever, whatever they want to do is cool by me. But yeah, it is now time for me to get, I would say, probably 1 stack in Syria. I know that's light. It is. And I know they could attack and, take it from me. But I don't have any big building projects yet in Syria. Like for this turn, I'm just going to be building a watchtower, which only takes 1 turn. The next turn, I'm just going to be building a border fort, which only takes 1 turn. So for the next few turns, I'm just going to be doing this really short-term building projects. So if they invade, it's fine, really. I can try to do some damage, get beat, whatever, fall back. It's going to be fine. But I would like to really hold back the French Crusade. That's going to be my real plan here. So, yeah, I'm going to look at my forces and send most of the forces here in Syria that are not part of the 1 stack into Antioch. Now I have the forces moved over to Antioch that I want to be stationed there for this face down with the Crusade. And I'm going to be leaving Syria pretty light. Yeah, so we will see if the Turks counterattack here. And then I will be building a horse breeders guild down here in Sinai. That is required for the Mamluk horse archers. But I'm going to need a castle for the Boyars Guild, so... Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's... Yeah, Boyar. Okay, so... I will be getting a castle next in Sinai. And I finally remembered. So, with this boat being 1 turn away from being finished, I can preemptively move all of my boats. Since Tripoli's port is here in the Nile coast, I can essentially move all these boats down and break the chain, knowing that the chain is going to be filled in time for the economy to be counted in the next end turn. So that is a tip that was passed on to me in the by a viewer in my last campaign, in the Danish campaign, I believe. And it's one of those tips that's useful because it does give you a head start on getting your boats further and faster. For instance, I could move these boats out to the Gulf of Lancia and make profit off of that in this end turn instead of having to wait until the next turn. It's not the biggest deal, but it does give you a good, it's faster, right? It is that. It's just, I just haven't gotten quite into the habit of doing it every single time, but there was a moment in my Danish campaign where I was in the habit of doing it. I'm going to try to get back into the habit here in this episode. So, yeah, thanks again for giving me these tips because it is always helpful to know these things. And I like being able to pass on the information, through you, of course, to let me know these things, and I will try to pass it along. So, all right, let's drop a save and let's see if the French Crusade attacks me or if they just want to hang out in Lesser Armenia. I don't know. I've seen a lot of Crusades just kind of look across the border and go, no, we can't do that. So they just kind of hang out. Nope, not this one. They're attacking. And no, they're not. Yeah. They've decided that they cannot win the battle and they're retreating. It's kind of wild, isn't it? So yes, I am the richest. And yes, an heir matures. I believe this is one of my actual sons, Prince Ali. And then the dockyard is finished here in Tripoli. I want to see now if I can start building those bagalas now. That would be so nice. And then watchtowers are finished here in Syria. And oh shit, the Sicilians reappear. Yeah, they just have Malta and they're going to be stuck on Malta because they are not going to have a navy to do anything with. So yeah, sad. Sad Sicilian noises. Oh, perfect. Nice. So the Turkish have accepted my offer of a ceasefire. That's wonderful. And Prince Ali has pride, so that's -2 command. -2 acumen, +3 valor. So a good fighter, but a bad general and a bad governor counter person. So, and then let's see, this is a governor as well, -1 dread, so that's not good. And then you are the next in line now, aren't you? Yeah, Prince Ali. So he is the next in line. At least he's loyal. So I'll take it, right? Yeah, pride's not good for. Yeah, he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, but that's gonna be about it. Let's just move him up to Tripoli, I guess. These are his uncles hanging out. They all have damaged Gulan bodyguard units that I can't retrain quite yet because I don't have the buildings for that. And this Almohad emissary is just hanging out here, so guys, don't even think about it. Don't even. If you interrupt my citadel, I'm gonna be so pissed. I'm gonna be pretty unhappy about that. Oh, is that it? Yeah, is that it for the French Crusade? They just decided they couldn't. That was it. The Byzantines attacked Lesser Armenia on the same turn that the Crusade attacked Antioch, and then they had nowhere to retreat to. So that was it for the Crusade. Wow, that is like so. That's so bad for the French. I wish I had vision on their king right now. I want to see. I want to know where he is. I saw him. He was just down in Provence, like attacking the Byzantine army that was here. So I want to find him. Yeah, I guess I'll have to just go the long way. And do I have an emissary up here as well? Yeah, I don't need any more emissaries in this area. So let's just use the port here in Georgia, and I want you to go help me find the French king because I want to see 1 loyalty on this guy here in Provence. Ooh, shit. 3 loyalty on him. Oh, I want to know what's happening. And the Aragonese are still around. Yeah, they're hanging out. 5 influence for doing what exactly? And the Almohads they ain't doing nothing. It's always like weird to me, like the Almohads and the Aragonese and the Spanish just a lot of times instead of fighting the Reconquista, they just all make friends and don't do anything. It's just like, guys, do something. You're supposed to fight each other, Like, it's funny, like the Catholic factions just like, probably thanks to the French. And I think that there is like a hostile written, like coded personality for the French in this game because they just like mess everything up here in Europe. But then you have like, the Muslims and the Christians here in Iberia just kind of hanging out and shaking hands and writing poetry together. So it's just, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The Pope would not be happy. He would not be happy at all. Well, geez, now that French Crusade was dealt with like that, and now that I have a ceasefire with the Turks, now that doesn't give me any guarantees. The Turks can attack me without any, repercussions. They won't be losing influence for attacking me. But we'll see. Maybe that will alleviate some of the pressure on my borders. They are still at war with the Byzantines. No, they're not. The Byzantines are just at war with the French, and they have a peace with the Turks. Okay, interesting. So we're kind of back to all. I mean, but I have that alliance with the Byzantines though, so that gives me a little bit more security, I guess. Okay, so Tripoli, can you start building Baglas? You can, man. That is just so. Oh, the Muslims just have it made when it comes to their navies. Yeah, getting Baglas, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like the best boat in the world, but getting it at the year 1140. When does the Compass event happen? Is it like 1170 or 80 or something like that? Maybe 1160. But still, getting even a 20-year head start is very, very nice. So yeah, absolutely build the Baglas. Yeah, they take the same amount of time to build them. 3 years for a boat. It's insane. I like how in Rome you can just build boats in 1 turn. That's very nice. That's just a really nice quality of life thing. Also, it makes more sense the turns in Rome they each represent 6 months, and you know that fits. I mean, I think I just like watched a video recently that was talking about how the Romans just built these massive like fleets of over 100 ships, maybe even like 200 ships in one fleet, and they were just built in like 3 months. And I was like, what? It was just like insane. And yeah, here we are in this game. We're taking 3 turns to build that. It's like each turn is a year in this game. So it takes 3 years to build that. Like, oh my God, it's just kind of really slows you down. So that is a nice thing in Rome. It's nice to be able to build boats a bit faster. But yeah, support cost is cheaper than the Dows. It took me a while to figure that one out. I was like so confused when I was playing this game. I was like, why is the boat's support costs get cheaper as you go along? And then I realized, oh yeah, that's because as their sailing technology got better, they required less crew for rowing, you know, because the galleys had a big old fleet of rowers. A lot of them were professional rowers. You know, they were hired to row, and that also meant that they doubled as fighters as well. But you needed to be able to feed them and also, you know, have water for them, which meant that a lot of the weight of the boat was just for like that. You know, it was just for like food and water for the crew themselves. So the boats couldn't actually carry like a ton of stuff for like trading and stuff like that because they had all this food for the rowers. Also, they had to stay close to the coast because they had to make constant stops to, you know, pick up more supplies and stuff. And it was the better sailing technology that allowed them to have smaller crews. So that makes sense, right? Also, so the Bagla has the same basic design as a dhow, but carries a catapult. This can be used to throw pots of Greek fire, an incendiary mixture of chemicals, at enemy ships. Pirates also use the Bagla, but with rocket missiles as they lack access to Greek fire. That doesn't seem... There's no pirate navies in this game. So yeah, that's interesting. It's like they wanted there to be pirate navies in this game, but they weren't able to put them in. But yeah, they cost 200 more florins to build than a dhow. But yeah, you know, the attack is, so it's 2, 2, and 2 for attack, defense, and speed. So their speed is slower. So if a dhow or something with a, you know, higher speed wanted to catch them, they could be caught. But with an attack of 2 and a defense of 2, they do have a better chance of surviving than a dhow does. Also, something I wanted to talk about. It has been, so like there's a lot of mysteries surrounding the way that naval combat works. There's a lot of just unknowns when it comes to what exactly do these stats mean? How much impact do the starred admirals actually have on the auto-resolved naval combat? And there's kind of a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding these naval engagements as well. One of them I actually do think is true, though. It's something that was brought up by one of my viewers, has mentioned it. In fact, I think maybe a couple of viewers have mentioned this, as well as another YouTuber who goes by Count MRVHS. I've mentioned him a few times, but he's someone who also seems to have observed that when you get attacked in a naval engagement, you seem to have a better chance of winning the engagement than if you were the attacker. Now, that's not the most useful thing to know, because if you need to clear out a sea region from enemy boats, you obviously need to attack. But it's interesting to know, and it's interesting because I wanted to think about that, and I wonder exactly why that might be the case. Because, and I'm wondering if boats... because, like, if you are the defender, is your defense stat the only thing being counted? Is it simply just your defense stat versus the attacker's attacking stat? And if that's the case, I wonder if a lot of boats naturally have a higher defense than another boat's attack. Now, it's obviously, it's not useful so much to compare within my own navies, because this is an upgraded, a Bagla is an upgraded boat. So, like, it's not as easy to compare this, but I'm wondering I'm wondering if like, yeah, if boats just have, yeah, I want to look at the stats for this. I want to kind of compare notes on this and see if that's the case. You know, if you are the attacker, is it just using your attacking stat? And I don't think strength means anything. I think strength for all boats is just 0, I think. Yeah, I don't know if that means anything. Speed, we know what that means. It means whether or not you can catch another boat. So like if you have 2 boats in the same sea region and you know, drag your boat on top of theirs to attack them, well, during the end turn, that AI boat may have tried to move out of that sea region to get away from your boat. And what determines whether they actually escape or not is based on their speed. If their speed is more than yours, then they can get away. If their speed is lower than yours, then you can catch them. And that's one way that you can like catch faster boats is by having, you can split up your fleets into faster fleets and bigger, like slower fleets that are stronger typically in combat. And you can use your faster fleets to catch the boats and your bigger, stronger fleets to win the combats. And that's actually something that I've found to be really useful when it comes to winning these engagements. But I would like to look more into this, and I want to compare the attack and defense stats for all of the boats across the different factions and try to see if there's any sort of like thing. I want to see if I can parse out some information here and try to figure out and get to the bottom of this, because this thing that we've observed seems true. It does seem like there is an advantage on the defense, but is that just because most boats have higher defense, or is it just because most of the boats that are trained by the AI are typically low tier, and low tier boats just don't have good attack stats? Maybe? I don't know. It's something that I would like to look more into at some point. Oh, shucks. Oh, that's too bad. I lost a dhow on the Gulf of Valencia, and that was letting me trade with a port there in the Gulf of, or on Valencia itself, so that is unfortunate. Famine in Palestine, oh no. And the Spanish king has sent an emissary. I don't know. I don't see any real reason to ally with the Spanish. I have to imagine at some point he's going to go to war with the Almohads. And I also intend to go to war with the Almohads at some point just to take Cyrenasia. So I just don't see any reason to. Unless I start seeing some Spanish boats in the water and I want some insurance against that attack. Yeah, I'll deny that for now. I just don't see any reason for it. And what do we have here? A civil war rebel army here in Provence. It looks like the French are going through it. Yeah, okay, well, good. We have not still found the French. We still have not found, yeah, that's how English works. We still have not found the French king. But I want to continue. Yeah, I want to see if I can find the bugger. So I'm going to send you there, and then you can go to Burgundy. Yeah, Burgundy. Why not? Why not? Actually, there's a better way to do this. We can go here in Homelands and see what they own. Flanders, Ile-de-France, Champagne, Toulouse. Flanders, Ile-de-France, Champagne, and Toulouse. So they own these 3 provinces here. And then, so they own like this kind of stretch here. Okay, so I'll send you up to Flanders, and then you can do, yeah, you'll do Toulouse, and we'll meet in the middle, and we'll try to find that French king. Man, this is not a bad army here, belonging to the Sicilians here in Malta as well. For this time period, feudal sergeants and feudal men-at-arms, it's pretty much that's all there is, but like, yeah, it's pretty solid. It's too bad that they don't have any boats. Yeah, that's so silly. Oh, it's so silly. They're just stuck here in Malta and they can't do anything. Now that we have reached another moment of relative peace in this campaign, I think it is time for me to start pumping out the alums. This is going to be my religious agent, and I want these guys eventually in every single province on this map, but I do want to prioritize the provinces that are inland here in this central mass in Western and Central Europe. Eventually, my boats will give me at least vision on all coastal provinces. I will need alums or any agents in the provinces just in case there are friendly, or should I say those factions have boats that are essentially guarding me from spying on their coastal provinces. But I do want to prioritize getting my alums in all of the central, landlocked provinces, just because I want to know what's going on everywhere. I want eyes and ears everywhere. And this is going to be one of the most rewarding parts of the campaign for me. Right alongside getting boats in every sea region, I like getting my religious agents in every single province. It just feels really good to just see everything. I really, really, really enjoy it. Like, it's one of my favorite things in this campaign. Is just watching the map, you know. So it never feels good to be blind. I don't like it. Don't like it. I like be able to see stuff. And know what's happening in the world. So I'm going to start doing that here in Egypt, and I'm tempted. I think in like maybe Palestine, maybe Palestine will build a mosque next so that they can start pumping out alums as well and help Egypt get that alum coverage going. Oh, now the King of France wants an ally. Okay, how about that? Now that he's dealing with his own civil war, he wants to be my ally. You know, gosh. Okay, I'm actually considering this, and it's funny. Because even though he is in the civil war, I would put my money on him bouncing back pretty okay. But he's going to want to launch more crusades in my direction. God, that's going to be so weird if we're allies. Because, yeah, the French typically lead the charge on that crusade action just because they're usually doing well enough to be able to afford that sort of distraction, you know? These Catholic factions that are hanging on for dear life, they so much can't really afford to send soldiers out to the Levant to capture the Holy Land, but the French typically can. So having them as an ally, though, they would have to betray me to send a crusade, and they have, correct me if I'm mistaken, I guess I can correct myself, but I'm pretty sure some of my territories are like their homelands objectives. Not just crusades, but homelands. So that would be so bizarre that the AI is typically, you know, directed and pushed into taking certain territories based on how many points it gets for these territories, right? It wants these territories for a reason. And we would be allies. They would lose influence if they attacked me. Gosh, I'm actually considering this. It would be weird though, and here's the thing. I kind of like them sending crusades in my direction because of what you just saw. You know, if they remain enemies with the Byzantines, and every time they retreat from a, attack on me to a territory that the Byzantines reclaim, and then they lose the crusade, and then they have another civil war. I mean, this seems like it could be a repeatable thing, right? Gosh, I don't know. I kind of want to deny their wish for an alliance just so that they can keep sending crusades in my direction, you know? Yeah. Yeah, that's tempting. That is tempting. I'm gonna deny this. Yeah, it's a weird feeling, but yeah, sure. Anyway, Amir, let's see. So you are a governor +1 dread. Okay, I will take it. And Sultan Muhammad I is a builder +10 happiness in all provinces. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And now we have our first dhow on the map. Bagala. Yeah, this is our deep sea region boat. And there's only 3 deep sea regions on the map, and one of them here is the Central Mediterranean. and then the Western Mediterranean, and then the Atlantic Ocean, which I hear is pretty deep. So yeah, now we have a Bagla in one of those 3 regions, and that just gives us a lot of insurance, essentially. You know, for instance, like the Byzantines now are getting quite a few boats on the map, and if they were to start a war with us, now we are allies, but if they were to decide that we're not allies, they would be cutting off a lot of my trade, right? Actually, quite a bit of my trade. But, you know, there'd be a bit more insurance by having these deep sea region boats that can connect certain trade routes that circumnavigate or circumvent the Byzantine blockades. The fact is the Byzantines don't have any deep sea region boats. It's a huge, huge disadvantage the Byzantines deal with, which is weird. I kind of thought that they had a pretty decent navy in the Middle Ages. But yeah, in any case, in this case, they don't. We have a better navy than they do, so yeah. And we can start sending, this is my first alim as well. Yeah, Bakr el Mutawakil. So yeah, I'm thinking I send you right on up to Provence and work your way from there, yeah. We'll just keep sending guys in from Provence, and eventually they can fill out throughout the entire continent. And yeah, we're just looking around. Basically, at this point, I just want to look at the king and just kind of laugh at him. Just kind of looking around with my emissaries, just so I can point in the king's face and just giggle behind his back. Yeah, it's so weird that Toulouse does not border Ile-de-France. It seems like it feels like it would, but it doesn't. It's kind of a tricky one. And now the Italians also want to get an alliance. This is also interesting. Essentially, if the Italians are doing okay, which it seems like they are, if they start getting boats in the water, I'm always wary of an AI faction starting a war just kind of willy-nilly with their navies attacking my navies. It's happened a lot for some reason. I think certain factions have a more of a they're more disposed to doing this than others. The Italian, I don't know. I'm tempted to get this alliance just for that insurance. They don't have any boats in the water at this moment, but they seem to be doing well enough so that they might at some point. And I don't seem to mind to be, you know, allied with these sort of underdog Catholic factions like the Aragonese and the English. So I can add the Italians to that, I think. Now the keep has been finished here in Arabia, and I'm trying to remember what was I actually going for here in Arabia? Why did I build a keep? I think that in the moment, Arabia was the only province that was being used to train soldiers, really, because I was building boats up here, and I was training the kind of low-level troops down here, and I think I wanted to get some better soldiers, and now I could do that here. Arabia could also be used to train agents up. I am going to be wanting to get assassins in Syria because this gives a valor bonus to assassins. Arabia could just be used to train spies, essentially. Could be one purpose for it, but I think getting soldiers in Arabia, at least in this point of the campaign, also would be prudent. I probably will be using Palestine in a similar way. So something that I keep on encountering is, you know, how do I deal with good melee infantry, you know, enemy swords basically, or enemy militia sergeants. And one of the ways that I could do that is by training Arab infantry. It's my own sword and board, and they would lose to feudal men-at-arms, so it doesn't exactly solve that problem, but I think that they do hold their line against swordsmen, well, better than spears. So that's an option. Getting some Arab infantry is an option. I thought that I could get... How do I get the, what do they call the Abyssinian Guards? How do I get those units? I thought that I just trained them in a swordsmith, but that's not the case here. Okay, I just looked it up, and the Abyssinian Guards are available from a swordsmith, but they aren't available until the High Period starts, and that's the year 1204. So it's going to be a little while before I get those going, and I guess it's worth it to... Let's see, there's some options here. So Arab infantry, we've already talked about. I can get Ghazi infantry if I get a swordsmith and the mosque. The Ghazi infantry are good. They're like an axe infantry. They're a lot like the Nodachi samurai in Shogun Total War. They're glass cannon through and through. Super high morale, so even though they will die fast, they will fight to the last guy. They are impetuous, so they will charge without orders, but they have very high attack, very high charge, and they will do a lot of damage. Their axes do have a bonus versus armor, so Ghazi infantry are a good unit. The Arab infantry are a bit more well-rounded and slightly better holding the line. And they also can fight against unarmored soldiers a bit better, I think, than the Ghazi infantry, because they don't rely on that bonus versus armor. So this is an option. Getting the swordsmith is an option. Getting the spearmaker's workshop also, this would allow me to train Muwahid foot soldiers and Saracen infantry, and these are also two very useful units. The Muwahid foot soldiers is a spear unit that comes in 60 men instead of 100, and it's more of like an offensive, like charging spear unit that's good at like supporting cav engagements. You don't really want it to take the charge, but if you want to stop an enemy cav unit with your own cav unit, like say a unit of a Ghulam cavalry or Ghulam bodyguards, and then you can support with the Muwahid foot soldiers, and then the Saracen infantry is just kind of like your heavier spear unit. So right now I am relying on my Nubian spears, and they're fine for now. And I think that they're going to be good in the desert, say keep them in Egypt. But I think the Saracen infantry is the unit that I want to have in my armies going forward, at least like in the north, right? Because keep them out of the desert. They have decent armor, so they're not going to be fighting well in the desert. But Saracen infantry are good. They're good units. So we do have some options. We got some options here. Fairies are also a decent option. It's going to be a horse archer unit, but I'm already working on my Mamluk horse archers down in Sinai, so that doesn't seem too useful. And then siege equipment. I don't really need siege equipment right now. How do I get Ghulam bodyguards? I feel like that's another thing that would be useful, right? Like getting just some decent heavy cav that I can rely on that's not just like my characters. Okay, so if I get a royal court and then I build if I get a royal palace and then build a royal court, then I can train the Ghulam bodyguards. That's probably what I'm going to go for, I think, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I think I want to get some Ghulam bodyguards going. Just so that I can make sure that I can compete in the cavalry. I feel a little light in the cavalry department at the moment. But do I need them here, is the question. Because I could just get them going here in Palestine. Yeah, let's go with the Royal Palace in Palestine. It's coastal. Coastal's nice because you can get to it faster and you can retrain your Ghulam bodyguards. Arabia is a little bit more tucked away, which is, kind of decreases its usefulness as a trading province, but it's kind of my only option right now, I feel like. So yeah, kind of back to the drawing board here. Let's just get the swordsmith. Yeah. It's going to give me a useful unit in the Arab infantry, but it's not like super, super dire that like, if it takes the extra turn to get from Arabia, it's going to be okay, I think. In the meantime, though, I do want to continue to train my naphtha throwers. I feel like right now it's my great equalizer, is getting a bunch of those units in my armies. And now let's start building the castle here in Antioch. Yeah, I am ready for my 3rd tier fortification here in Antioch already. I started my castle here in Tripoli, and I'm a few turns into that. And getting the castles is going to allow me to build my 3rd tier of trading post. And in these 2 provinces especially, that's going to be very important because these are going to be super rich. They already are making a lot of money. There's 5,500 here in Antioch, and that's 2,600 here in Tripoli. And that's only with like Mediterranean coverage. You know, that's not even talking about the rest of, Iberia and the North Sea trade as well. Like, there's a lot more money to be made. And that's just going to be boosted as we get higher and higher trading post upgrades. So that's going to be very good as well. Yeah, we're already making over 7 grand per turn. And we're sitting on 51,000 just already, just casually. Like it's just, oh, the wealth down here is just insane. And now the King of France has died from an illness, so his heir has taken over. I was never able to find him with my emissaries and point at him and laugh for his failed crusade and his subsequent civil war, but oh well, his heir has taken over, and I'm keen to see what he is like. What kind of guy is he? What kind of guy is the French heir like? Horse Breeders Guild is finished here in Sinai, so now I think it is time for me to start working on my castle here, so that eventually I can build the Boyars Guild, maybe? Is that what it's called? Farm upgrade finished here in Palestine. It's a cool little picture there. And the King of Poland. The Poles are like right next to the Byzantines, and I kind of like having the Byzantines as my allies right now. Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying that part of my life, so let's not accept the Poles. And then the Holy Roman Emperor. Do I care? Do I care? I feel like the Germans are on their way out. Every time I check their homelands, they're not doing too hot. Again, is there any reason to care? I can't think of any reason to care. And the Turks, they're asking for an alliance now. Okay, so here's the thing. Thanks to my my future awareness, I know that I will be tasked out with taking more territory in the north, and I believe that one of those provinces is Edessa, that happens to be held by the Turks right now. So I can't. Like, I don't know when exactly that's going to happen. I don't know when that's going to shift in my glorious achievements objectives, but I know it will happen at some point. So, yeah, sorry guys. Let's see, Prince Asali. This is my heir, or no, this is like my brother, I think. Very charitable, so plus 10 happiness, plus 1 piety. That does not matter at all. He is not in charge of anything, so it doesn't matter. And then Amir al-Din. Oh no, Chinless Wonder. No, one of my best generals just lost acumen because it was just how did you just become like a Chinless Wonder at your age? Like, you're not a child. Like, come on. You just like find out and you're like, oh, I'm stupid. Like, what happened, man? Come on. Oh dear, that's too bad. Yeah, one of my best generals. And that might get worse, right? Chinless Wonder can be one of those ones where it gets like really, really bad. It's still 5 stars is still 5 stars. I'll take it. But still, yeah, I'd rather him not lose any more. It looks like we are just over halfway with being finished with the Citadel here in Egypt. And then that's going to allow us to build the Grand Mosque after that. So it really does feel like we're investing a lot of resources in getting this glorious achievement objective here in the Grand Mosque, because it feels like I just can't do much with Egypt until that's actually finished. So yeah, there's definitely some trade-off here for sure, like going for those 4 points, right, and getting that going. Oh yeah, I just remembered like why I like really wanted to get that keep going in Arabia was so that I could build a mosque, so that I could build a Rabat, so that I could build a jihad marker, so that I could send a jihad against any provinces of mine that are captured. Right, yeah. Well, I guess after this swordsmith is built, let's just put the mosque in now, so that in the next episode I'll be like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And I'll try to remember that's my plan, is to get some jihad markers going, because I would like to play with that a bit. And I liked in my last campaign as the Danes where instead of like just really super loading up on my border provinces with just 1 million soldiers, what I did was it was kind of like a house rules sort of situation where I would count how many of other factions border each of my border territories. So in this case, like there's 2 territories that border Antioch. So I would allow myself 2 full stacks guarding Antioch. Syria has 3 other provinces bordering it: Edessa, Rum, and then Armenia. So I would allow myself 3 stacks in Syria to guard this province. And then I would still have like 1 million guys like in my back territories just as like, reserves. But I kind of liked the idea. In some ways it was, a form of house rules to try to keep the map a bit more, how do I say, a bit more dynamic, I guess is the word for it, because it feels like this is what we see, right? When I have my insane economy where I'm just building everything and I can just stack as many stacks as I want in my border territories, well, the AI they feel like they have to do this, right? The Byzantines and I are allies, and yet they have 3 stacks here in Lesser Armenia. Why? Because I have 4 here in Antioch. Now, the Byzantines should have better things to do with those 3 stacks, like perhaps looking at factions that are not allied with. They're not at war with anyone. Okay, so good for them. But yeah, that's kind of the idea, is that by limiting myself to like 2 stacks in Antioch, maybe they will let 1.5 of these stacks go somewhere else, right? These guys are stuck here, unfortunately, in Edessa, no matter what, just because they are cut off from their other territories. So there's nothing we can do about that. But then the idea is that if I get attacked, okay, that's one thing. Like, okay, I might get attacked by my neighbors. But if I'm looking at getting some Jihad play involved in this campaign, well, there I go. Fine. Send a Jihad. Send 2, send 3, send 5, send 10. That's kind of the fun thing with Jihads, is that unlike the Crusades, where you're limited by 1 at a time, with the Jihads, you can send as many as you have built. And you can, yeah, sure, you can call it spam, but it's kind of cool. Like it's one of those, I don't know, it's too fun not to, I think. And I've never done it before. I just think the idea is really neat. And I think it also, like, fits. The thing is, the Jihads, they're not quite the same as the Crusades, are they? The Crusades can march a long way through territories that are, they can march through Catholic territories. They can hoover up the troops that are in those territories based on the zeal in those territories, and they can arrive at their destination, 10 turns later, 15 turns later with, a hefty, triple stack or something. The Jihads, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because it only works against territories that you've lost. So you don't have, like, a lot of buildup to get to that territory that you're launching a Jihad against, for one thing. Secondly, the only way of raising zeal for Muslim factions is by using your upgraded religious agent, which can only be recruited from the Grand Mosque, and you can only have 1 Grand Mosque, and the Grand Mosque grants +3 morale to any troops that are trained in that province. So you have to decide between getting your best soldiers trained up in that province or getting your best religious agents trained up. And usually you're going to go for the soldiers, right? So, but that's the only way that you can raise zeal as a Muslim faction. So it's weird, isn't it? And also, would you even really want that? Sending a Jihad through your territories to hoover up what? Your own soldiers? What's the point? Like, what are you doing that for? So the Jihad spam of being able to launch multiple Jihads at once, that doesn't seem broken to me. That seems like how that's supposed to work, frankly. What else is the point then? The Crusades just make a lot more sense. I know that with Jihads, a really cool idea is to say, just like launch a raiding party. Maybe I could just land in Provence and just go boom, 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 and just kind of march through the continent. And then, like, if I had boats up here, just go from Flanders all the way back home, something like that. And then I've technically, at one point, owned each of these provinces that I've just raided. And then I can launch Jihads to those provinces. And that's a cool thing. That's legit neat, right? That's a unique thing that the Crusades can't do. I like that. I really do like that idea. I probably will use that at some point. But I also like the idea of Jihad spamming just in like your local region, right? Because it makes sense. Like it doesn't seem like an exploit to me. You know, like sure it's powerful, yeah, but it's kind of seems cool to me. Anyway, all right. I think I will be saving that for the next episode. I have to remember Jihad. That's what I'm going for here in Arabia. I'll stop chanting Jihad, but that's what I need to remind myself to go after in the next episode. But you know what? That's going to be it for this one, and I hope you have enjoyed this one, and thank you very much for watching. This has been Concept playing Medieval Total War. Thank you very much, and goodbye.